This is way better than we thought. The Royals made a handful of offseason moves to improve the lineup heading into 2026, and while some of those bats have struggled early on, the overall production really hasn't been all that bad, and a few players are starting to find their groove at the plate. We have all the latest news and updates right here on Royals Digest. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brian Sparks, and I hope you all are having a fantastic day. If you haven't already, do me a huge favor, hit that bell, hit that button so you never miss an episode posted here on Royals Digest, as we're going to be bringing you guys Royals content all throughout this 162 game season, with videos just like these, but also shorts and pre and post game live streams. Those are coming very soon, I can promise you that. I mean, the whole 9 yards. We're going to have you guys covered from start to finish. Man, oh man, are the boys playing some ball. They are on fire right now. They have a little bit of a winning streak, winning 4 in a row as they enter Game 2 of the Cleveland Guardians series tonight. They've won 8 out of their last 10. They are now a game and a half back from the AL Central. Everything is just, like I said in yesterday's episode, things have started to turn a corner. The pieces of the puzzle have finally started to fall into place, and this team is like, they just flipped a switch, and they're winning ball games. They may have not be the most, pretty blowout games that we all wish they could do every single night, but they've been winning games, and that's all that matters. And now, like I said, they are a game and a half back with a buttload of opportunities to climb the AL Central. I also brought this up in yesterday's video. They have back-to-back divisional series coming up. They have the Guardian series that they're playing right now. Then they have the Detroit Tigers. Then after that, they go to Chicago and play the White Sox. So here in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, they could be close, if not at the very top of the AL Central, if this hot streak and this winning streak continues on for the next 3 series. It's if you would have told me back in mid-April that we would be in the situation and the position we are in right now, I would call you crazy. I'd be like, no way. And so I'm so happy, and we are so fortunate that the AL Central hasn't really been super competitive, and these teams haven't been great, and no one's really ran away with the division to allow us to kind of be in the position we are in right now. But we're not talking about that today. Today's episode, I just want to touch base on some of the offseason pickups we had, offensively speaking. We'll get to the pitchers in another episode, but in today's episode, I want to talk about a handful of players that we picked up in the offseason and just how they've been performing so far. Take all this with a grain of salt. This is a very small sample size. There's still so much baseball left to be played. These stats and what these players have done, it could be completely different in just 2 weeks. And so take what I say with a grain of salt. I just kind of want to check up on these players and see what they've done so far, and also get your guys' take. Let me know in the comment section below who's been your favorite offseason pickup to watch so far this season. It doesn't have to be offensively. It doesn't have to be in the lineup. It could be a pitcher. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are in the comment section below. But let's start off with the first one, the main one. A lot of people were excited to see this player on this team going into 2026. That's Isaac Collins, and rightfully so, because the outfield plagued this team in 2025. It was bad. They tried, more specifically, the corner outfields, right and left field. They tried literally, it felt like everything. They tried so many different things. They had MJ Melendez and Hunter Renfroe and Drew Waters and John Rave and Jack Caglione they called up way earlier than expected. They tried Jonathan India and Michael Massey to start the year, though Jonathan India kind of fizzled out and stuck to second base. Michael Massey looked pretty fluent out there and left, but I mean, they tried so many different things. So obviously the outfield was the main topic of discussion coming into the offseason. And whenever Isaac Collins got traded to Kansas City, along with Nick Mears for Angel Zerpa, a lot of people were very excited, and rightfully so. You look at his stats, he had a very successful and a very productive 2025 season. I mean, he was in the Rookie of the Year conversation, and he got a handful of votes there. What really stood out was, he gets on base. In 2025, he had an on-base clip of 368. A guy that's really reliable out there and left field, or the outfield in general. He's a switch hitter. He was in the conversation of being the leadoff role. There was a lot of expectations coming into Kansas City for Isaac Collins. A guy that gets on base at a high rate. He was very, very highly, a lot of people were just excited for him this season. And to start the year, he hasn't been bad by any means. Granted, he hasn't been the flashiest player. His average isn't the flashiest, but he's still getting on base at a 349 clip. That's not bad. He's getting on base. His slash line being 231, 349, and 330 isn't god awful. Again, the main thing I'm looking at, I'm trying to stay positive, is that on base percentage. Granted, in 91 at-bats, again, take this with a grain of salt. This isn't the largest sample size. There's still a lot of baseball left to be played, but I think he's maybe not necessarily exceeding anybody's expectations that they set for him to start the year, and I guess he may, in some people's eyes, have been a little bit disappointing. But, I'm trying to stay positive. I'm looking at that on-base percentage, and as a guy in the bottom of the lineup getting on base like that, it leaves a lot of opportunities for guys, if the lineup can flip, to Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia and Vinnie Pasquantino and those type of guys. And so trying to stay positive. Again, hasn't been horrible. I don't think you can call him horrible. He's, obviously not playing to the caliber he was last year. But again, there's so much baseball left to be played, and I don't think he's been that bad. And next we can go to Lane Thomas. See, Isaac Collins was more viewed now that Jonathan India is out for the season and Michael Massey has kind of took over second base. He's the everyday left fielder. Lane Thomas didn't really come into Kansas City viewed as a everyday player. He was viewed as a platoon guy, a guy that can mash lefties. It was also clear in spring training that the Royals were banking on continued development from Jack Caglione and Carter Jensen. More so Jack Caglione, because he plays right field now, and he's a big part of this team. And so Thomas was kind of brought in to kind of be a platoon guy when a lefty is on the bump, and it showed in his stats. Though he was very limited last year, only playing 39 games in 25. In 2024, I think he hit lefties at a above 300 average, and so the stats were there. He was a lefty masher, and quite like Isaac Collins, he hasn't been the flashiest player. He had that one big Royals moment, if you guys can recall, the craziest game, if you didn't watch, but if you did watch, probably the craziest game you'll see all year. The Angels, I think it was the series finale, rain delay, crazy, hit a walk-off 3-run bomb in extras against the Angels. It was pandemonium. It was just a crazy game, and it was just a cherry on top how it ended. But that was kind of his Royals moment. That was his first walk-off, I believe, in his entire career. But quite like Collins, hasn't been the flashiest player outside of that. His average is 234. That isn't super attractive. But what is his on-base percentage? He has great at-bats. He's got 14 walks, and he's getting on base at a 380 clip. His slash line, 234, 380, and 297. His slugging isn't necessarily phenomenal. But again, I'm trying to stay positive. He's getting on base at a high rate, and he has quality at-bats, just not the flashiest player. And so those two were definitely coming into the year, were kind of the biggest names when it came to the lineup. Again, this front office, were banking on Cags and Carter to kind of produce more offensively speaking. And so that's, I think, one of the main reasons and one of the more underlying factors on why they didn't go out and acquire these superstar blockbuster trades. But I'm trying to stay positive. There's, again, still a lot of baseball left to be played. He's only got 64 at-bats, but he's getting on base at a high rate. You can't complain. Next, we go to Starling Marte. He was kind of a last-minute pickup. I believe it was the beginning of spring training, or I think we may have actually already been in spring training, but he was brought into Kansas City as just a veteran's veteran. He's been in the league for a long time, since 2012. Played for a number of teams: Pittsburgh, Arizona, Miami, most recently the New York Mets. He's definitely at the tail end of his career, so he wasn't brought into Kansas City as a guy that's going to impact this lineup tremendously. He isn't going to turn around this offense. But he's a veteran's veteran, especially for a guy like Jack Caglione, who's not only new to the MLB, he's new to the outfield. He's new to playing right field. And so having that veteran presence out there in the outfield and in the clubhouse, I'm sure it's going to rub off on some of the younger guys and some of the younger talent that this team has. Again, not an everyday player. He doesn't have a huge sample size, but he's been effective. He's taken advantage of all the opportunities he has been given. In 33 at-bats, his slash line's 303, 314, and 394. Again, has been productive, has gave this team something whenever he gives opportunities. And so a lot of baseball left to be played. I'm sure he's going to get a lot more opportunities, but so far, so good for Starling Marte. And the last player I want to talk about is Elise Diaz. He is, again, I think we signed him to a minor league contract with a non-roster invite to spring training, but like Marte, a veteran guy. He adds depth to the catching room. Also, like Marte, he started his career in Pittsburgh, played for Pittsburgh, Colorado, most recently San Diego, and then now we signed him, I think also just towards the beginning of spring training, or just I can't remember exactly when we signed him, but I don't think a lot of people were expecting him to see him in the majors. And whenever he got called up, it kind of surprised a lot of people. And granted, of course, you can never have too many catchers, and he hasn't played the most since getting called up. He's got 11 at-bats, but again, like Marte, has taken advantage of all those opportunities, slashing 364, 417, and 818 with an OPS of 1235, and he does have a home run. And so I think a lot of people were questioning Q because a handful of these lineups have included all three catchers on the roster, and that's pretty surprising. It was either like Salvi at first or DHing, Carter at catcher or DHing, or Diaz at catching. I don't know. But a lot of people were surprised. A lot of people said whenever Q first made the lineup with all three catchers that it was a fireable offense and it was just the worst lineup ever. And they ended up putting up like 5 or 6 runs and winning the ball game. And so it was pretty ironic that it all played out the way it has been. But Diaz, again, he wasn't going to be a huge underlying factor of how this team is going to flip a switch, but is a veteran depth catcher, and again, that can rub off on Carter, and it can pitchers always love having a veteran guy behind the plate just because he knows the game more than maybe a guy like Carter. And so staying positive, has taken advantage of all the opportunities he's been given, and it's been fun watching him so far. But definitely Isaac Collins and Lane Thomas being the two that a lot of people were intrigued to see to start the year. More so, I think Isaac Collins, just because of the whole outfield situation. I mean, Lane Thomas too, but Isaac Collins was kind of the front runner for who you wanted to watch coming into the year. And so, again, let me know what your guys' overall thoughts are in the comment section below. Who has been your favorite off-season move you've watched so far? It can be a pitcher or a catcher, or a pitcher or a position player, someone in the lineup, a hitter, whatever it is. Let me know what your guys' overall thoughts are in the comment section below. I will do a video on the pitchers we picked up this offseason and how they've been performing. I know like Nick Mears is a name that is at the top of my head. It just... We'll see. We'll see when that video comes around. But other than that, that is all I have for you guys here on Royals Digest. Have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and as always, go Royals.